What's up, guys? Welcome back to a new Dying Light 2 video. In this one, I'm gonna talk about a possible theory I have about Frank and open your eyes about some things you might not have seen before, I guess. So getting right into it, I'm gonna refresh your memory on the demo. It's important to mention that Frank is the owner of the Fisheye Bar, and he organizes the whole meeting we see at the beginning. And we know that Frank uses his status to organize the two leading officers of the two major factions in the city. Those factions are, of course, the PKs, Peacekeepers, and the Scavengers. Now, those two officers are Matt and Juan, who we see in the demo, Matt being the officer of the Peacekeepers and Juan being the officer of the Scavengers. Now, it's unclear if Juan and Matt are actually the leaders of those factions. Just by the wording officers, I don't think that means the leaders. That means high ranking, obviously, but I don't think that's the role of leader. I think there's someone definitely above Matt and Juan in each of those factions. But it's just important to notice how Frank was the one who had to organize this whole meeting because the city was in a crisis, running out of water, and he was really the only one who could probably do it, let's be honest. Getting someone like Matt and Juan in the same room is difficult enough. The Scavengers and Peacekeepers are pretty much arch enemies, so it was pretty impressive that he could actually do that. So now that we know this, we need to really establish where Aiden stands in the demo. In my opinion, I think he is riding along with the Scavengers at this point. My evidence for this is just to show his conversation with Juan just a little bit before Frank gets shot. I just want you guys to listen to some of the stuff he's talking about with Juan.
What, are you not going?
There's a lot of them down there. Things will get fucked up at the castle, I guarantee it. You got a plan B?
I'll improvise.
What if he improvises?
It'll work out.
You so sure about that?
So as you can see, he's talking about, a plan B. What are we going to do about Matt? So obviously, Aiden is not with the Peacekeepers if he's talking with Juan behind his back about what they're going to do about him. He's clearly with the Scavengers, in my opinion, or at least he has some friendly alliance with them at this point. And then we see Frank get shot, and the more and more I think about this, I'm thinking of how pivotal this moment is for the entire game of Dying Light 2. And I think this decision of chasing the truck and staying with Frank has been severely overlooked by all of us. And at this point, I actually believe the correct decision for the best outcome is to stay with Frank, personally. That's what I'm thinking. Now, what's the reasoning behind this, you might say? Well, the reasoning is if you leave Frank, he's pretty much destined to die. We hear Matt over the radio at the end of the demo where he's talking to the colonel, and he basically says that he killed Frank, pretty much confirming that he did die.
I know how to get it, but you've got to trust me.
For fuck's sake, he killed Frank.
As you can see, I have an article here that is talking about the demo. It says, if you leave Frank, he bleeds out and dies. Pretty much referring to the part where Matt subtly kind of says the colonel killed Frank. Then it says, whereas Techland confirmed the prognosis could have been better if Aiden had decided to stay and help him recover. So that is definitely promising. I mean, as far as him living, who knows? I mean, maybe he lives either way. Maybe he dies either way. But think about what is really the gain as far as going to the colonel's castle. In my opinion, basically nothing. Even if you choose to not turn on the pumps and go with the colonel, that's probably the best option if you do chase the truck. That's assuming that the colonel isn't going to betray you. Maybe at that point you build a long-lasting relationship with the renegades. That's best case scenario. Still at that point, Frank is going to probably be dead. I'm thinking that Frank being alive is going to be a huge anchor in keeping peace in the city. I may be wrong here, but just think about it. He's obviously respected by both the Scavengers and PKs, maybe even more people. He was actually able to get them in the same room together, Juan and Matt, which is pretty impressive. And he was actually able to align the two factions' goals of actually getting water to the people by going to the colonel's castle, hoping somehow he would have water or be able to give them access to water. Pretty impressive. I mean, I don't think there's a whole lot of people in the city that could really do that. That's why I think staying with Frank might actually be the best choice. And I guess just to go back a little bit to going to the colonel's castle to kind of reiterate my point, if you actually do end up turning on the pumps, what does it do? All it does is give you a new playable area, which, yeah, is going to be nice for gameplay. But as far as the actual story, keeping peace between the factions and having probably the best outcome in the game and the narrative, I think for sure staying with Frank is going to be the superior option here. Would they really give us that option and then just have Frank die like that? That would be pretty screwed up. That would be That would be such a bad way to make a choice there, and then Frank just dies. What I'm thinking about it is that Techland knows everyone is just going to chase the truck without thinking twice. The only people that are going to stay with Frank are the people that can see that Frank is a key anchor in the city for keeping peace. He needs to stay alive. That's the reason I think Techland is giving us a choice between chasing the truck and staying with Frank. Because what is the choice of staying with Frank? It almost doesn't even make sense. Unless you could somehow help his prognosis or keep him alive. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking, hopefully. And now I'm just thinking about possible motives from the people who actually shot Frank. They're probably well aware of Frank's status and how he can unite the factions, the Scavengers and the PKs. This is most likely by another faction, the Renegades, other small factions, someone else out in the world, who wants to get rid of Frank, have the PKs and the Scavs fight, so they can ultimately rise above them because they're too busy fighting each other, and they can become the victor. It would make perfect sense to get rid of Frank for anyone else out there who's looking to gain glory or rise above the two main factions that we have at that point. So yeah, I think I pretty much covered everything I want to, throwing in even a little bit extra at the end there. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. I hope that got across my idea of why Frank is really so important. Like I said before, I could be completely wrong here. Maybe you stay with Frank, he dies. Maybe we don't need to keep Frank alive to have peace in the city, who knows. But yeah, that's going to be it. Like the video if you enjoyed it. Go ahead and subscribe for more Dying Light 2 news and updates and theories or whatever. And thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one.